Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I am literally so thrilled to have you here today because we're tackling a topic that honestly feels like it should be incredibly complex, but actually follows a surprisingly predictable reality, and that's business automation. You know, if you've ever looked at a business and wondered where on earth to start applying AI or workflow automation when literally everything seems possible, trust me, you are not alone. But here's the absolute secret we're uncovering today. Regardless of industry, size, or geography, companies all start in the exact same place. And understanding why this pattern exists, well, that is going to save you months of false starts. Okay, let's dive into this. Recent data from McKinsey shows us that 66% of organizations have now automated at least one business function. I mean, that is a massive jump, up from 57% just the year before. But, the rapid adoption rate across all these industries isn't actually the surprising part. The wild part is that when you ask 100 different companies which automation project they tackled first, you hear the exact same answers in roughly the exact same order. So the real mystery we're solving today is what exactly are they automating first, and why is this pattern so completely undeniable? And here is the answer, just beautifully summarized in this quote. The pain picks the process, not the strategy deck. You see, most companies don't actually begin their automation journey with some grand, sweeping strategy document. Now, they start with a specific problem that has been absolutely annoying a specific team for years. We're talking about high-volume, rules-based problems, the kind of tasks that are easily measurable in hours or dollars, owned by someone who is fundamentally just tired of doing them manually. That friction is universal, which is exactly why this pattern repeats itself everywhere. Section 1. Fixing the finance friction, unlocking capital and accuracy. This single number represents a massive everyday headache for finance teams everywhere. $15. That is the average cost to process just a single invoice manually. Just think about that for a second. When a finance team is drowning in paper or PDF invoices, it takes roughly 15 minutes of an actual human employee's time to route, approve, and enter the data for just one single vendor payment. It's a dramatic, highly visible waste of resources, which is precisely why accounts payable is almost always the very first starting point. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer contrast in speed and cost reduction. Automated processing literally crushes that cost down to just $2 to $3 per invoice. The processing time plummets from 15 minutes down to a mere 3 minutes. But listen, it isn't just about speed, it's about outcomes. On-time payment rates climb from 70% to an incredible 95%. Plus, vendor disputes fall by up to 60%. Best-in-class organizations using AI here are seeing a 3.2x return on their investment over 3 years. Honestly, if you're still processing invoices by hand today, the ROI conversation is essentially already over. But finance friction isn't just about invoices, right? It's also payroll. Manual payroll takes an average of 5 agonizing days per cycle, complete with a 2.5% error rate. Automated payroll collapses that entire cycle time to just one single day and drops the error rate to a microscopic 0.3%. It rarely makes the flashy tech headlines, I know, but payroll automation drops compliance issues by 70%. For your average enterprise, that translates to saving $250,000 annually in compliance and processing costs alone. Every error in payroll is highly visible and super expensive, which makes it just the perfect candidate for automation. Section 2. Reclaiming lost employee time, ending the manual data drain. Stare at this number for a second, 9.4. That is the astonishing number of hours wasted per week, per employee, literally just transferring data between emails, PDFs, spreadsheets, and internal systems. That is more than a full working day every single week dedicated to work that adds zero strategic value. Small businesses actually gain back 6.5 hours per employee per week when they automate this. And at an enterprise scale, that's up to 360 hours annually per employee. We're talking 9 full working weeks returned to actual meaningful work. This sheer pain is exactly why 38% of companies tackle data entry immediately. And, we see this exact same drain in HR. Onboarding a single employee involves a highly predictable checklist. IT provisioning, paperwork, compliance forms, getting system access. Manually, that takes 10 solid hours of active administrative involvement per hire. But by automating this totally predictable workflow, it drops to roughly 2 hours. If your company hires, say, 500 people a year, this automation saves around 14,000 administrative hours. That is the equivalent of 7 full-time employees just doing paperwork. Plus, organizations that get this right report 82% employee retention rates, which is just huge. Section 3. Scaling support, sales, and compliance. Amplifying output. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive technological leap we've experienced recently. Pre-generative AI chatbots were, let's be honest, pretty frustrating. They resolved only 10 to 20% of support queries. But today, generative AI agents autonomously resolve between 50 and 80% of routine volume. The absolute top performers out there are hitting 70% resolution across thousands of customers. And the goal here isn't to replace your support team. Not at all. It's about letting AI handle the endless, repetitive password resets and order tracking so your human agents are actually freed up to tackle the complex problems that genuinely require human empathy and critical thinking. This amplification effect extends perfectly into sales and compliance too. In the sales pipeline, automation literally stops reps from losing leads in their inbox. Teams respond 87% faster and close deals 20% sooner, which drives a 29% average increase in sales revenue. It entirely removes the friction that stops them from actually selling. And on the compliance side, a whopping 97% of governance, risk, and compliance professionals now use AI. Why? Because it reduces repetitive audit preparation time by 80% and cuts compliance costs by 30%. The stakes for errors are incredibly high, and automation perfectly handles that heavy documentation burden. Section 4. The unique process trap. Why you are not the exception. So the absolutely crucial point here is highlighted in this data. While 43% of Australian SMEs have adopted some form of AI, a mere 5% are fully enabled to actually realize its potential. When companies push back on automation, they almost always claim their processes are too complex or too industry-specific. But listen, this massive 38% implementation gap isn't about missing technology. The tools absolutely exist today. What's actually missing is a structured approach and proper implementation. I need to deliver this directly to you, and I really want you to hear it. Your invoice processing is not unique. Your onboarding is not unique. The 7 processes we've just covered appear in virtually every single business on Earth, and they respond to automation in exactly the same way. Busting this myth is absolutely vital. True competitive advantage doesn't come from having totally different administrative processes behind the scenes. It comes from automating the right, universal processes way before your competitors do. Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 5. 3 rules for success, the Automation Playbook. Step 1, map the friction first. Don't start with what just sounds cool. Start with what costs the absolute most time relative to its complexity. Running an X-ray workshop to map out workflows really helps identify where AI creates genuine, measurable operational value. Step 2, measure before you build. You absolutely must baseline everything. If you cannot state the current cost of a process in actual hours or dollars, you will literally never be able to prove that the automation actually worked. And step 3, pick a process the team desperately wants to change. That third step right there, that is the secret to this incredible number. Forrester documents a 248% 3-year ROI for enterprises that get this sequencing right. Because the biggest bottleneck in automation isn't the AI, it's human adoption. If you start where the team is actually frustrated, like the person spending 9 hours a week just copying and pasting data, rather than where executives simply think the opportunity is, you generate massive, unstoppable momentum. You get immediate internal buy-in that easily funds the very next project. It spreads like wildfire. Every business that automates well starts in the exact same place, and that's because the same universal processes hurt the most. These aren't just suggestions, they are hard evidence. So I'm going to leave you with this provocative thought as you look at your own operations today. Which friction will you map first? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Now get out there, find that pain point, and start automating.